Welcome everyone to Talking Hands. I'm the Prodigal Fool. I'm here with my co-blogger on the Prodigal Guide, Straight Six.
That's me.
And the glasses are empty. Any chance?
I'll take care of business as usual.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know anybody else pouring anything.
So this evening we're having a bottle of Rioja. No, it's not a Rioja, is it? It's a Tempranillo. Always better value.
By the way, even better.
Better value than the Riojas normally.
I love it.
And talking about the Bremont Solo. So this watch was launched at Basel World last year, 2011. Was the first time that we clapped eyes on it. We spent the last few weeks with it now. This is Bremont's entry-level model, okay? The movement is, I think, the same movement as in the MB2. It's the BE36AE, so it's got 25 joules, 38-hour power reserve.
This is an in-house movement, or it's
Bremont don't do in-house movements, right? So they source them from Switzerland.
Do we know who they're sourcing them from, or we don't want to get into that kind of stuff?
Details.
Okay, fine.
Who did what to when.
And the thing and the guy in their place.
So, but it's modified, and what they'd say is that, you know, what they've done is they've moulded and skeletonized the decorated rotor, which you can see, by the way, here to the back, on the case back.
Not bad.
That's fine. It's got what is fast becoming a sort of the Bremont trademark triptych case. And this barrel that you can see here is scratch-resistant PVD.
Nice. Always nice.
No funky colours on this one. As I said, it's the entry-level model, so you've just got, you know, the black.
And we'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about, indeed. But what is cool is it's just like all the other Bremont models, the case is hardened in the UK to over 2,000 Vickers. So this is, you know, 7 times, according to Bremont, 7 times more scratch-resistant than normal watch-grade steel.
I want to ask you something. Do you know what a Vickers is?
I haven't got a clue.
Okay, well, great.
Do you? I haven't got a clue.
I thought it was a measure of the hardness of steel.
I imagine it would.
I would hope so.
I imagine it would.
Okay.
I'm taking Nick and Giles at their press release word.
Good.
It's 43 mils. On the wrist doesn't look it. We'll do a wrist shot in a second, but it certainly doesn't look like it. It's a very nice size, in my view at least. Coated nickel hands, super luminova on those hands. Very nice indeed. It's got a sort of, you probably won't be able to pick it up. It's got a domed, anti-reflective, scratch-resistant sapphire
should be able to
crystal.
maybe barely make that out, yeah.
Water-resistant to 100 meters, COSC certified.
We like. Always a mark.
And all in all, I think it's just a really impressive entry-level watch for any brand, and particularly for Bremont.
Okay.
So, this is the Bremont Solo.
Right. So let's kick it off. You know what it starts with.
Well, it starts with me having a drink, surely. Cheers.
Excuse me, so that both of us having a drink.
It's been a long time, and I'd like to wish you a happy St. George's Day. Did you know it's St. George's Day today?
Happy St. George's Day to he who slay the dragon.
Indeed. I suppose the first good point is pretty obvious. It's got Bremont DNA. Okay? So, and by that I mean that, as we said, you've got the triptych case, which gives the entire watch a very distinctive, very unusual, very, very distinctive Bremont look.
It's distinctive.
Okay? So you get the different coloured barrel, you get the shape of the lugs. You know, this brand is fast establishing itself with a very distinctive look. It's rugged. It's a sort of manly tool watch. It represents everything that I associated with the Bremont brand.
Okay. So and everything perhaps we used to associate with Rolex and no longer do.
Yeah, I don't always bring Rolex into it.
Forget
them. They broke your heart. Get over it. Move on. Right?
I can't. It's not my fault that I still love them.
You need to move on. You need to move on. So the second good, I would say, is the dial design. Okay, so you've got this really clear, concise, and confident dial design.
Yeah.
All the stuff that you need there on the dial, nothing that you don't. I remember when we reviewed the MB2, we talked a lot about how we thought the design of the dial was just a little bit too fussy. They just spent a bit too much on red paint that they sort of dotted around the dial, and it just felt a bit too much.
Too many additional design flares that weren't perhaps required.
Yeah, they were just blemishes that we thought were too much. This, I think, is more restrained and therefore more confident and just more impressive. This is a lovely. Let me get it up close to the camera. Hang on. Just a lovely, clear dial design. Really impressive.
So, as far as you're concerned, this is a quintessential tool watch, and you think it pulls it off because it's simple to the point.
It's got some lovely. It's got the odd hint of luxurious detail about it as well. This is probably not going to show up on the video, but in the style of Rolex, it does have on the outer markers here on the bezel, it's got what looks to my eyes at least like the same sort of effect that Rolex applied to their watches, the sort of the gold surround on the markers.
You're right. That's hold on. That's extremely discreet.
It's very subtle.
You can barely
and
see
to be honest, I've been wearing it for a week before I even noticed.
Well, I hadn't noticed it until you told me that.
And it's just on the outer markers.
Well, we don't actually know whether these are white gold.
No,
and probably not.
Quite honestly, at this price point, I suspect they're not. But it's certainly, but visually, the effect is the same, and it's lovely. It's a lovely, subtle little thing that sort of reeks of quality when you do eventually notice it.
Okay.
And speaking of the price point's the third thing that I wanted to mention in the good for this Bremont Solo.
Mm-hmm.
Price point's, I think, is fantastically fair and honest. £2,500 for this.
Another thing that I wanted to pick on, you were talking about the luxury points on the piece. I think the crown is actually worth just a shot or two. I mean, we may find something static in there, but you and I happen to own a couple of lovely cufflinks with this same design, but it's gorgeous. Yeah. It's a lovely propeller design.
Yeah, I'm back to the whole point about, this is the essential Bremont DNA. It's got all the styling cues in it, in a watch that's very fairly priced.
There is a bad. I think you know what it is. I think everybody knows what it is. It's the white elephant in the room. In fact, it's a black elephant, and it's called the IWC Mark 15 or 16. I'm not sure which.
Yeah, okay, the 16, yeah.
Now, and I'm particularly thinking about this because in terms of price point, when you get around this mark, I think if people are given the option for a higher end brand and they can buy it secondhand, they will. Okay, I think it's unreasonable to expect that even anybody who wants to buy new at this price point will only buy new. I think they'll be looking if they can aim somewhat higher, and what comes slightly above this is an IWC.
Okay, so your bad point is it's not another watch, it's not an IWC. Okay, fair enough.
No, my bad point is it goes right up against the IWC in terms of a second-hand buy. That's what I'm trying to say.
To be clear, the price of this watch new is the same price as an IWC Mark 16 second-hand. So that's a big sacrifice to a lot of people.
But it's worth noting. Fine. Because one has incredible heritage, and the other doesn't.
I was only joking really when I said there were no bads. I have given this some thought, and there are some bads. And the one that I was going to bring up was the fact that, and ironically, it kind of reflects what you just said. The only bad I could think of for this is that it's not an MB2.
So both of us are a little... Okay, that's interesting. Well, with that,
let me explain that. Well, look, I happen to be lucky enough to have an MB2.
Bless Bremont for this.
And let's be clear. This is Bremont's entry-level watch, okay? And in many ways, the MB2 is still its flagship. It's the one that sort of best represents all of the brand values, I think, of Bremont.
I agree.
And so when I say that what's bad with the Solo is that it's not an MB2, yes, it has the hardened case. Yes, it has the anti-reflective, scratch-resistant sapphire crystal.
Yeah,
yes,
it takes a lot of boxes.
It's
great,
and all of that.
Okay.
But, and here's a crucial thing, it doesn't have the shock resistance that's built into an MB2, and it doesn't have the anti-magnetic features and all of that. So the MB2
doesn't have the two crowns, most importantly,
and the two crowns
colored
and the rotating
barrel.
and the bezel and the coloured.
Hold on, these are major features, I think.
Absolutely. Now, to be clear, this is much higher up the Bremont range. There are different price points, and so of course you want some differentiation. But for me, when I look at the Solo, I'm like, yeah, it's great. It's got all the Bremont DNA,
but
it doesn't, does it? And I'm always sort of drawn back to the MB2. So that's a completely unfair criticism of this watch at this price point.
I agree.
But
we make it nonetheless.
Subjectively, rational or not. Yeah. I'm like, it's kind of a Bremont, but not quite.
All right, so
I'm always reminded of this.
All right, but I'll roll with that for a second. I think that's very, very true. Most importantly, because whilst you and I found the MB2 to be perfectible, there are things that we would change about it. It perhaps reflects the very best of Bremont's DNA. And that's why I mentioned the two crowns and the colouring of the back.
Definitely.
This to me is a watch I will recognise from a mile away. I'm not sure I would this. I'm not sure I could distinguish this amongst others.
Agreed. You wouldn't see this on someone's wrist and instantly go,
And say,
that's a Bremont.
okay, yeah.
Whereas you will with the MB2.
MB2 is distinctive. Like you said, it's their trademark.
And I know this because I've been experiencing this for the last few weeks, wearing it myself. You get a lot of admiring glances, you get a lot of comments. This is instantly recognisable as an interesting quality watch.
Agreed. But a distinctive one?
To the bottom line, would I actually buy one? No, I wouldn't. And that's
but I thought we agreed that's not what we're going to ask anymore. It's not whether we would buy one.
Okay, would I recommend it?
Exactly. Would we recommend it? That's a better question.
Well, I'll give you a very real answer. Not only would I, but I have. Recently, a friend of mine came to me and he was looking. This is a guy who doesn't have any quality watches, right? He's just slowly now getting interested in having a decent watch. And he wanted me to give him some advice about what watch he should buy. He wanted something that would be his only watch, obviously.
Okay.
Something that he'd wear with a suit at the weekend.
So you had an intention to buy more?
He
was it the start of a collection?
One watch for everything.
Okay.
He wanted something that would be different. Like the last thing this guy would want is for to be in a meeting, to meet someone with the same watch. And also he's quite British, this guy, he's got a sense of individuality. And it wasn't long before I immediately said, I know exactly what you should buy. You should buy a Bremont. You should buy the Bremont Solo. You've got all the Bremont DNA in it. It looks great. It's elegant enough to wear with a suit, especially here, as you can see on the black strap.
It's a lovely strap.
It'll be fantastic at the weekends, and you'll have something which is, different, individual, and you know what? I'm quite sure that if you did want to buy it, at some point you'd meet Nick and Giles who own the company, you'd have some sense of belonging to a little club which is special and important.
Yeah. Chances are very high that you would actually meet the owners of the brand, which I think is very special.
And this is, again, sorry to labour this point, but £2,500. Like, this is an entry-level watch, but from a brand that cares about its customers and who would probably reach out and
it's accessible.
Yeah. So I had no hesitation in recommending it, and I would do the same to anyone else who asked.
Did you buy it?
He hasn't yet.
Sorry, what's that?
No, he hasn't got it yet, but he's an indecisive.
Whip him into shape.
He'll come out. So yeah, absolutely. Wouldn't you? I mean, I would happily recommend that. God.
Would I recommend this? No, I wouldn't.
Quality, flexibility, ruggedness, Englishness. What the hell else do you want to know?
That's great. So, I'm not like you. I'm not betrothed.
Heterosexual?
I'm not betrothed to the British Isles, my good man. And as such... No, hold on. As such, I think that's fine. You know as well as I do that I admire the English brothers as much as anybody else. I think what they've done with the Bremont brand is exceptional. But if I were to say to somebody, you've got £2,500 to spend on this, or you've got £2,500 to spend on an IWC Mark, what do we agree on? Is it 16?
Well, 16 was the last gen before they updated it.
Okay, on the 16?
Put the silly date on and the crazy size.
And by the way, I do feel slightly guilty in saying this, because of late I've mentioned the Steinhardt Ocean Military Vintage blah blah blah. But I'd recommend the IWC. I'd have a harder time doing this.
Okay, because of heritage and history and
because of heritage, but also because there's a slightly more purist, slightly sharper approach. I find the Bremont a little bit soft. It's in the lug design, it's in the dial design, it's in the overall feel of it, whereas an IWC is very to the point.
Listen, I can't believe that our roles are inversed, because I'm normally
You're the one who always
classicist who always sort of buys the icons.
I agree, but this is a very particular kind of a watch. And by the way, you give me the MB2, and I'll crow about this baby all day long, even though I critiqued some of the dial design. But this, it's a tougher sell. That's where I come out. It's a much tougher sell.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Well.
So, folks.
We disagree.
Thank
you for joining us for Talking Hands.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Join us next time.
Where we'll still be squabbling.
We'll probably still be squabbling. We'll certainly still be drinking.
Absolutely.
In the meantime, wear your watches in very good health.
Cheers,
night.
guys. Take
Cheers.
care.